Now let's get to the biggest story of the past week. I'd argue it's the biggest story of the year, of the decade. Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, declassified documents revealing overwhelming evidence, Josh, that demonstrated how Barack Obama, together with his national security team, the likes of John Brennan and James Clapper, they manufactured intelligence to create the entire 2016 Russian election interference narrative.
And President Obama and his team, their goal was to essentially not accept the decision of the American people and to use this manufactured, politicized intelligence as a means to enact what would become essentially a years-long coup against President Trump. A years-long Mueller investigation that cost taxpayers almost $40 million, 2 congressional impeachments, endless smears and attacks against not only President Trump, but his family. He had senior members of his team who were investigated, some arrested and jailed. We had heightened and increased tensions between the United States and Russia. The list goes on and on about the consequences of President Obama and his senior cabinet members politicizing intelligence once again, and I say these words very clearly, to enact what was essentially a years-long coup, subverting the will of the American people in that election.
That's not hyperbole, Josh. It was a coup. It was a quiet coup, and its impact is still being felt today.
Well, it was an attempt at a coup. The coup failed because Donald Trump did win the 2016 election. But overall, Rita, the Russia collusion delusion, as I like to call it, is really one of the 2 greatest gaslighting operations perpetrated against the American people in my entire adult lifetime. The other, by the way, is what we just saw last year with the Democrats running a literal mental patient and the lengths that they went to conceal Joe Biden's health for years and years. But the Russiagate hoax is right up there. I mean, those are the top 2 hoaxes, the top 2 gaslighting, bamboozling operations of my lifetime. The most astonishing thing about the Russia collusion delusion is twofold. One is, I think we, at this point, especially given what DNI Tulsi Gabbard has said, we can kind of put 2 and 2 together and realize that by January 2017, when then FBI Director Comey formally brought in Robert Mueller to do the whole Russiagate probe, a probe, by the way, that took up literally more than half of the Trump presidency. Trump was not exonerated until March 2019, if memory serves. So the entire half of his first term was totally derailed by this. But by the time Comey announced this in January of 2017, they knew, the FBI at that time knew that this was bunk. They absolutely, without question, period, full stop, end of story, would have known this was a Hillary Clinton, Fusion GPS, Perkins Coie political hit job, literally in the context of the 2016 political campaigns. All that is to say that they lied. They lied through their teeth. And it is a good thing. It is a good thing that the Pam Bondi DOJ and the Kash Patel FBI and all of them now are looking into James Comey and John Brennan to try to finally get justice. Now, I don't want to mislead the viewers. I tend to be quite cynical about these things, and we've been burned too many times, Rita, so I'm not going to confidently predict that we're finally going to get justice there. But the fact that to this day, the only semblance, the only iota of justice that we have is that a somewhat obscure former agent by the name of Kevin Kleinsmith had his law license temporarily revoked. That's it. No one has served a day in jail. Throw all the bums in jail, Rita. This is a world historical scandal. I am happy that we're finally seeing the truth come out, but my God, it's a little late, isn't it?
It's a little late, and I think, yes, they didn't succeed, but they did succeed in undermining Trump's first term. They did succeed in undermining the American people's trust in America's democratic systems. How many Democrats to this day think Russia had a hand in determining the 2016 election? That it would be a sizable percentage to this day who don't trust the electoral process because of this deceit. And I just think there has to be accountability, Josh. This can't just be, we finally have some transparency, we're finally exposing the documents are being released, we've got evidence that is indisputable that this happened. There now needs to be charges and people going to jail. Otherwise, what's the point of all this? Basically saying, well, you know, you did your best, don't do it again?
Yeah, no, look, I mean, unless you get some sort of accountability for these scandals here, whether it's the Biden cover-up operation, by the way, all of the White House doctors from the Biden administration all of a sudden have now discovered the Fifth Amendment. They're now pleading the Fifth and saying, I will not testify. That's a slightly sketchy there in that respect there. When it comes to, how about the 51 deep state spook letter that the Biden campaign whipped up about the Hunter Biden laptop story? They had these 51 deep state agents, including Brendan Clapper, all the usual suspects, signing off within 24 hours. Rita, they probably hadn't even read the New York Post article, and they said, oh, it's just Russian disinformation there. COVID-19. I mean, there's so many scandals at this point where I think the American people are just dying and dying for some sort of justice, some sort of accountability. And the longer that we go without any kind of accountability, the more people are going to be searching deep in the bowels of the internet, and the Democrats are going to just they're going to shriek and howl that, oh, people are going to bad sources to get the information. But you know what? You fools lost your credibility. And unless and until we get some justice, this trend is just going to continue.
Yeah, and so much of this happened after Trump won. So during that transition period, after he won in November 2016, before he was inaugurated, is where these documents show that the Obama administration decided, well, yeah, the evidence shows there was no Russian interference, but we're going to create our own evidence and completely undermine his term in office. And I think the media's role in this cannot be underplayed either, Josh. They wouldn't have got away with so much of what happened if the media held the intelligence community, held these people accountable, because there just wasn't any evidence of what was being alleged. There was no likelihood of what they were saying, and yet the media whipped this hysteria up.